Okay. I'm working in the studio this morning, and I don't know what day it is. I think it's Tuesday. It's Tuesday. So, yeah. So I've got things going along here in the studio. I've been working on some large projects, and so I haven't been streaming as much lately. And there you go. But my apologies. But I thought I might show you. I gotta lean over because it's like 3, 4 feet away from me. I thought I might show you some of the stuff I'm doing. So I'm gonna go out of camera for a second and just show you. I'm doing a bunch of studies for some large scale. You know what? I don't even need to move. I can't move because Corbin's in the way. Anyways, so I'm doing some large studies for a series of paintings, and so it's classical imagery and religious imagery. You don't like that? What can I do for you? So here's our first one. This is graphite and acrylic paint that I'm trying on this one, and so I'm doing all these workups in order. Hey, good morning. So I'm doing all these work. Oh, it's Liz, isn't it? In order to let the people figure out which approach they want me to take, and subject matter maybe. But so the first one's graphite and paint. This one that's chalk pastel, and there's acrylic paint here as well. The fish is in paint. This is chalk pastel, and the larger fish is chalk pastel. So you can see the image I used. And then paint up at the top, really broad brushes. I'm using these old school acrylic brushes you'd use in grade school when I'm doing these acrylic studies. So it's the big clunky broad brush. That's it. Just using there's a small one, and that's the large one. And so that's my painting tools. And so this surface is 18 by 24. So then the next one is kind of a blended image, but it's ballpoint pen at the bottom, and pencil crayon at the top, and that's the Martyrdom of St. Matthew, and that I'm studying from. And then these images here is just what about a static single value composition. So the whole thing is just drawn in like a red pencil or something, right? So the next one is the Tempest. So the top part, so I laid in the image with the red pencil. And then I did the sky and the water in the acrylic paint. But I never painted the boat. It's time consuming. So I didn't do it. And the whole idea comes across here, right? If I paint the boat, it's a finished painting. And this isn't finished stuff. These are studies. And then down at the bottom, this is markers. Just the water-based markers that I've shown a number of times here on the stream. And a brown ballpoint pen. So all the tools that I'm using were purchased at the dollar store. So this is Noah. Nope, Moses. So it's from a study from the sculpture by Michelangelo di Buonarroti, and so you don't need extravagant tools to work from. You just don't. It's about what you can get out of it. Now, for the professional light fasting and conservation, there's other things that you can do on top of, the tools that you've already used and the surface that you've already, prepared. So there's watercolor, and this is acrylic here. And then we've got, down at the bottom, we've got colored pencil and just a pilot black pen, so that's that one. And the last one that I started is just drawing pencils and a little bit of marker, a little bit of mixed media. Anyways, this is the separation of day and night. And, the ends of his hands is where day, the sun, and the moon are. But I just put them behind him because conservation of space. And so there you go. So that's all these different things that I've been doing on this larger scale. And some of the challenges that are presented by that is that you're working on a large piece. You're working, like, this is the size of the sketchbook, right? Not a petite little thing, but when you're working on large scale surfaces, it's hard to then go back and compress yourself into smaller scale surfaces. But I'm in a flow state, and when you're in a flow state, you want to keep on the flow. So what I've done is that I've got a page that I've laid out, but I want to take a moment from traditional media as well. And so I've got this page here laid out, and this is the original sketch image, and I think it's good size. Yeah, it's good size. So I'll make it a little bit bigger, but I just thought I'd show you the whole thing. And it's just shapes, just composition of shapes, characters in relationship to one another, and playing and having fun. But, this finds the same thing, the whole idea of switching from one to the next. You gotta switch it up, right? You gotta, every now and then, transition from one thing to another. So, I like 11 by 7.5 journals now. Oh yeah, that's great. That's the sketchbooks that I kick around in the studio are not too different in size from that. So, and I've shown sketchbooks on here before. I might show another one. So I also have this moleskin sketchbook that I use, and I'll have to put the camera back on for this. But one of the things that I've been doing in this is more of these studies. Put that on. So there's the book. It's getting kind of beat up now. But what I've been doing is I'll pencil out an idea, and then I'll photocopy it in my studio here. And then I'll do a color mock-up. And so this is preparatory. This is for the idea of doing some chalk drawings on asphalt. So, hi Susanna, welcome aboard. So I've done a few of these. That's my Samson. That's Noah. Hey, I'm just building this boat here. And then here's the Centurion. So these are, again, that's not your your beat. Yep. So I've been doing workups on that size as well. So there is a transition that I can make from one scale to the next. But when it comes to doing full page compositions, that's even more compressed because you've got smaller and smaller frame of references within that smaller page. And so that's why doing these sort of these little thumbnails of page compositions. There we go. So these little thumbnails, those work out well. But yeah, what are you going to do? How did you learn to make so many different faces? So good. Oh, that's very nice of you. Study faces. Look at different faces and try them. Look at how light works on faces and look at the colors that are in the faces. And practice. Anyways, so what I've done so far is that I've taken my little rough sketch here. I then went in with a digital pen and I picked out all the lines that I want. Okay, so there's our rough penciled surface. Okay, it's still pretty basic, but it's a little bit cleaned up. Okay, and then I put a flat color behind it. And so the whole point of doing a flat color is you're not, so here's the thing. Sometimes we have a hard time get going. I know myself particularly, I have a hard time I'm trying to itch my neck and not the microphone. I have a hard time getting going, and it's largely because nobody likes a white surface to work on. It's the big daunting, oh, what am I going to draw on the paper? And it happens on a subliminal level, or it happens on a subconscious level, sorry. And, or it's just very plain obvious in front of you. Oh my goodness, I don't want to do this. So I mess up the surface first. And one of the ways that I can mess up the surface is by putting a base color down or doing a mixed media application to the surface. Hiya, Paul. Welcome aboard. Have I watched Brandon Sanderson's videos? No, I have not. I'll have to write that down and look them up. Hiya, Paul. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So the second thing I did is this. This is my painting layer. And it goes on top. And so as I'm picking random colors and scattering them down on this surface, now if I take the line art out, there's our painting so far. Okay, but red is Paul's favorite color. Nice. As I'm using colors, I'm taking the brush and I'm putting them down at the side. The reason that you'll see a light color with a darker version of it above is that my opacity is cut down. And so the light color is the reduced opacity, and the darker color, the darker value of the same color, is I've gone over that spot a couple times to make the opaque version of it. But what I'm also doing is I don't have the color wheel. I use a really old Photoshop program, so I don't have the color wheel of values to choose from. I just have swatches. Well, once I've picked a few colors and I've put them on here, I don't touch the swatches anymore. I got a yellow, I got a blue, I got these earth tones, I got a white, I got a black. Let's go. And that forcing myself to have to keep it that simple. So we'll pick our yellow, and I'll do a darker, more opaque version of it, right? And then we'll put we don't need to put white down, it's already there. I'm going to put the charcoal down because I prefer to use charcoal and blue instead of black. Now, I'm going to paint everything on one layer. And the reason I paint everything on one layer for the most part is that, and when I mean that, I mean this, right? Hey, right? I put my other colors down the wrong layer. Anyways, doesn't matter. So the reason I do one layer is because I'm painting. Now, other people find a lot of comfort in doing multiple layers when they're painting. I don't. If I'm worried about, if I realize I painted the foreground before I paint a background, I might do a layer underneath the one I'm working on and put the background in that way, like if it's a sky or something. But for the most part, I just do one layer. In this case, I'm using my penciled line art as a guide, and I'm just doing my image. So the reason I came on this morning is that this is what I'm doing anyways. So why not invite you along, right? Right. So I'm just putting in some of the details, some of the information in the composition as I go along. I'll make it larger so that you can focus in on areas with me. How's that? This is Sanderson's about how to write a book. It's been good. Hoping to add value elements to my journal. I don't use computer at all, but it looks very cool when you do it. Oh, that's very nice of you. Well, yeah, it sounds good. I mean, I just I don't get much opportunity to go and check out what other people are doing because I just keep myself busy on one thing or another. And not to say that you're not. I'm just saying that, like, I've sort of set myself up at this point to not have enough time. So yeah, I'll definitely be checking out Sanderson. What is the name again? Brandon Sanderson. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to write it down. Sorry, just a sec. Brandon Sanderson. Okay, cool. Thank you. All right, so I'm just going through and I'm putting in little hits of the color I've got loaded up on the brush right now, which is that charcoal, and I'm figuring out where shadows would be and having a go with it. And every now and then, you know, I'm going to pull the image back and put in, make sure that I'm following through on my composition without limiting myself, so that I'm going to be like, wait a minute, there's a dude's arm there? Which is what I just did. So I figured I haven't posted stream, but here I am in a studio this morning doing this. So let's have fun. That's his arm. Yep. And then the other thing, the other rule I'm setting up for myself is no going back. The other limitation I present myself with is that I can't delete. I'm trying not to at all. And the reason that I'm trying not to at all is so that it just keeps me moving forward on the drawing or the painting or whatever you want to call it. And if you do things like limiting yourself for what you're going to go and subjectively change in your drawing, you're going to sit there and spend X amount of time worrying about, oh, it's not perfect. I got to fix this and this and this. And just do it on the go and let the thing be the thing and move on. And in that way, you're going to get more done. So I'm just making up all the colors as we go. That's kind of fun. You know, it's a fun way to go about doing it. Give me a second, I'm going to turn this off. There we go. I don't know if anybody else works like this, but this works for me. And you know, I need digital painting to be fun and not to be too caught up in overthinking. Just pull me out of it, right? The whole point of it is to just express yourself in a different way. So I'm good with this dinosaur character in the background here. So next panel. So I started cutting in some shapes in color over top of what we've got going on already in the black and white sketch. I'm not worried about the edges. I'll just chop those off when I clean up the panels. Hey, Mama, how are you? So the black and white line art is just a guide. I'm not worried about it sticking around. I'm going to make choices and decisions as I go that fill in that guideline, that fill in those values. So if you haven't tried digital, if it's something that you'd like to try and you enjoy painting, there's programs you can do it on your phone, like Notepad, without having to go out and buy extravagant things. And if you have to use your finger. But what it does is that limited little palette and those limited little tools and that limited little surface sort of makes you have to make different levels of choices. And if you find you're developing an affinity for that, you're enjoying it, then I would say go and grab, a tablet or a whatnot. I don't own a tablet. I do this on a PC. And so I just have an 18 by 22 monitor that I can draw on. So, and it only costs $300 Canadian. That's, what is that, 23 cents American? Sorry, calculate tariffs, 46 cents. There you go. It's not even a political statement because I so totally don't care about this whole situation. All right, so I'm just coming in and giving some dimension to these structures that are in the drawing. And whatever my initial intention was with putting those in there, I'm taking liberty with that, and I'm playing with that just a little bit more, and giving them a little more interesting shape, and thinking about how light works on objects. So, and I'm sticking to my palette here, so I'm going to the picker tool and picking the colors that I already have down. So, and that limitation makes me need to think a little bit more. And it sort of uniformly ties together the whole thing, right? Now, what I haven't picked out is some kind of value to think about flesh tones and stuff like that for Caucasians. There's a lot of values that are on here I can use for other people, but not for honkies. So I had to resist myself for a second there, because I went to go over and pick a color off the swatch list and went, nope, we're not doing that. So I'm just getting basic values down on everything here. So hopefully it's starting to look like buildings, you know. So Mama says, hey, Healing, I love your name. It is a great name. So I'm adding a little bit of additional marks and shapes, and just to give things a little more something. There we go. So this is, I'm not naming off the colors as I go. Honestly, why? I forgot. But this is just one of those values that you see on the side. And I'm not adjusting. I'm just, everything's at 48%. And if I want it darker, I go over the same spot a couple times. So we're starting to get something coming together here. I'm going to go to that dark blue instead of that charcoal. It's a more fun and interesting dark value to pinch in on things. There we go. Now, the thing about all this is I'm not overly concerned about this level of complexity in the background images, because background images, that this is just to set the scene. I am far more interested in, you know, what's going on in that foreground. This fella who's being hoisted around by a bunch of dudes. He's going to be offered, I don't know, maybe to the big robot monster, robot dinosaur. So when you're scribbling in a sketch pad, a note in your journal, whatever you call it, allow yourself to let go of a sort of sacredness about those scribbles, those ideas, and think about how you can utilize those in other ways and other projects that you're doing. Mama says, I have so missed watching you work live. Does it take you longer to do it digitally than paper pen? No, I think it's the same. But maybe not. I haven't really thought about it. It's the honest answer. We'll see. So the pieces that I showed at the beginning, and if you missed those, feel free to go back and check. But the things that I don't know if you're able to do that actually. The large compositions that I'm doing for this project that I'm on, those are 18 by 24, and chalk and paint and pencil crayon and pen and watercolor and all those different methods that I'm approaching on those different things, they all kind of take their own amount of time. You know, like they're just what they are. So I'm just coming in, playing with some of these colors just a little bit more. And tying objects and things together. There we are. So I'm also trying to get a sense of depth going here too, right? There we go. So we've got this area down below in this same thing. I think it's in frame. Yep. I'll move it up. Is that? Yeah, there we go. So down at the bottom here, there's this whole background area behind these characters that so, you know, I'll end up tying this color together here as well. Into the overall the composition, but this is just sort of a doing one quick run at it. It's just sort of like a holding color, you know, and you're going to see some of that peeking through in here as well. I just was worried about the top part of things more so than the bottom. Now there's no features or anything in any of these figures that I've drawn outside of basically their form. And that's largely due to the fact that we'll get to it, you know. So there's a similar situation with this character, but it's a lot of body, so we'll leave that and we'll just fill in this background area here, and we'll use the same dark, it's kind of like a deep Prussian blue. Why is it Prussian? Because it ain't Russian. Anyways. So there's that. Now let's bring that up a little bit here. Now I gotta take some care here. Not to paint out the details we put into buildings. This is why I say I usually paint in backgrounds in a sublayer, but we're sticking to the rule of staying on one layer today as best we can. So I'm just throwing up some of this value in our clouds, and then I'm going to jump down to a gray. I hope this is interesting to folks. I don't know. So I'm just putting down this 50% base value again. Drums, there you go. Is everybody hearing me okay? So now I'm just coming through and emphasizing some of these parts in the clouds here. Oops, wasn't there we go, yes. Okay, thank you. So coming in now the second time over this, get a little more of an opaque presentation of that light blue value. So I am utilizing the line art sketch. I'm letting it stay peeking through in a lot of places, because why not, right? And but that's a stylistic choice. Other people want to paint it right out. I'm not so worked up about it. I kind of like what it presents us with. So when you're painting, whatever your image is, don't everything, all the marks that you're making are along the way. It's the way I like to look at it. Oh, that's wrong. Yeah, that's all right. It's along the way. You'll go over it and hit it with the thing that you want it to be. So don't be too worried or worked up about, the thing that you look at for a moment and go, oh, I don't like that, and I did that wrong. Then work it out. Take it out. Like so, the blue color that I put underneath, that dark blue that I put over top of the penciled line art, is, I'm going through now with other colors over top of it. It's not that it was wrong, it's just, it's in there. It's part of it. It's going to come back too, because I'll go back in and find little spots where I want it to show a little more subtly, a little more obviously than it did before. Well, hopefully that's making our sky blend a little bit. See, so there it is coming back through now. So hopefully that's making some sense. It makes sense in my head while I'm working on it. I don't know how it makes sense to other people. You want people to be able to understand what's going on in your stuff, but it doesn't. You think about that along the way. You don't think about, or towards the finish, I would suppose. If you worry about it the whole way, does this look right? Does this part look right? Let it go. Put your marks down as best you can in a moment and keep going. Anyways, so I looked at a couple of different people came up in my feed about this is the way to do it when you're painting, and this is my method, and all they're doing is painting on a layer, and I'm like, that's a method? It's just you gotta make sure you stay on a layer and don't erase. I'm like, oh, I suppose I have a method then. But the reason that I make myself have to stick to what I'm doing is that I'm from a traditional art background, and from a traditional art background, you're not allowed to erase when you're working with paint, because anyway, so when I switched to digital, that didn't even cross my mind. And so a lot of people that use multiple layers and do these gradient color shifts when they're done doing the main art, I'm like, what do you just paint it that way? But I have to be more fair than that and say it's the way that people learn on the tools that they have. So, I've got to be fair. Look, that's the darkest gray. Not a lot of difference in my grays here. I'll just use that blue, I suppose. And where's that blue? We'll use you as a dark gray. How's that? So I haven't changed the size of my brush this entire time either. It's just kept the static size in accordance with the size of the page that I'm working on. And that's it. Move forward. So there's the line art. There's where our coloring has gone so far. So I'm going to come back in that first My rule is no unfinished, so I have to finish. Super rare to paint over or to cover over as well. Well, there you go. I mean, that works too, right? And sort of making yourself have to be conscious of the marks that you put down. That allows you to that sense of control that that we want creatively as we're working. I'm kind of I'm rather I think the term maybe it's fair to say aggressive as I'm working, so that I'm very in the moment, and being in the moment makes me not sit down and put a lot of consideration into marks that I put down. I just go, and like you see now, I'm coming back in and you know chopping in all these other marks into the same spaces, which other people would find doesn't work in accordance to how they go. It's a little counterintuitive, but that's fine. We got to figure out what works for us, right? Okay. I think we're going to put something silly in behind the Godzilla type thing, the robot Godzilla type. Yeah, I'm going to follow the same axis. Your videos are always something new. Love it. Oh, well, thanks very much, Liz. So I've got no underlying penciled in expectation for the background here, so we're just going to make one. But taking this moment to start knocking in the surface, the background, is going to make more sense of our foreground values. But that red is always peeking through. That's kind of one of the things I like about throwing down a base color, is that color always peeks through no matter what. That's like, I haven't even painted if there's going to be a tongue. This thing's yapper or not, I don't know. But right now I like that red there. I just, something fun about it. I don't know how much. How long are we going? 30 minutes. We're doing all right. 40 minutes. So I probably farted around for 15 minutes before I said, "Oh, just do this in camera," because I don't know if I'm gonna have time to stream this afternoon. So yeah, we're about an hour in, all said and done, I guess. Well, close to it, yeah. So you can see how the value of the robot changes by darkening out the background, right? And I rewatched the video and I saw a great placement, but I didn't see it while making it. Have you done that, or do you watch? I don't watch my videos. There's nothing wrong with that. I know a lot of people do. I don't, because I always think I look like a goofy person, and a lot of people do, and improve in the process. Probably why I'm not, my videos don't improve, but I just don't. Way too neurotic, man. Okay, so we've got. So was I using the charcoal in the first place? Maybe I was. Okay, let's try that other blue. You do not look like a goofy person. Oh, well, thank you. Thank you very much. I feel like a goofy person. So now I'm just coming in and finding some shapes for the periphery of this cloud area. Oh, I hit it well. You guys are very nice. So I'm muting that red by going over with this what color is this? It's like a light cool brown, but very, very lightly applied. And I'm muting down the background so that I keep the red, but at the same time, it isn't as bright and overpowering. Come in with this. Push this up a little bit. There we go. You can see how the different combinations. So this is that charcoal color. That's the base color. But I'm going over top of that light brown we just talked about. And, and it works as, this is why I like working with the charcoal and dark browns and blues instead of black, is because there's a warmth in there. There's a little bit of an energy in there. I don't mean necessarily a warm palette. I'm talking about more color, more life. There we go. I think that's enough there for now. Mama says I gotta run. Work. Nice chatting. Love your work. Bye. Nice to meet you. Healing. There you go. A young guy with a toque. You're Canadian. You're kind to answer. And I'm your son's age. Oh, cool. Have a super day, Mama. And I pass that on as well. There. Thanks for stopping in. I appreciate that. Yeah, me and the toque, I get cold. So I just keep a toque on in the studio. So yeah, some people are like, what do you got a hat on all the time for? I get cold. You're on a deep well for logic here. Okay, so we've got some backgrounds established for the tops of our panels. And one of the things that you can do, and I'll just show you, is that when you're comfortable with, a certain area and you don't want it to interfere with how you're thinking about the other ones, just omit those values that overlap into your gutters if it's going to throw you off. Because it also gives you a sense of where your composition's going. I got to be a little more careful this time. There we go. So we're tightening up the pictures. But yeah, so I'm more comfortable with that sky now, having cut off the excess around the outside of it, right? Not a deep well for logic. Am I more of an introvert than an extrovert? No. So we did this series of tests recently. I can't remember what they're called. I think Bracken Hicks or something like that. Anyways, and it talks about where you sit on the. I have it in a book somewhere, one of my sketchbooks. what your numbers are and where you sit on the introvert extrovert scale and what your personality types are all like. And so I was hitting 48, 52, 56, 46 in there for everything. Except for intuitive, I got a 98, which, is crazy. But I'm like, did I fill something out wrong to get that? Is that a variant thing? Myers-Briggs. Thank you. That might be it. Myers-Briggs. And so, yeah, my intuitive was, which is kind of how I work, right? So that does make sense. But yeah, my intuitive was bonkers. So I am going to cheat a little bit now. And I picked out all these colors, but I didn't pick out all these colors. I didn't put anything down for like a Caucasian range. So I'm just going to pick a couple of randos. And then we'll go. This is one that's going to weird people out. This is green is a key component to me for a Caucasian range. Okay, so there's our whole palette now. Yeah, I think it was a Myers-Briggs thing. I think it was that. So it said, Christopher, you are a crazy person. All right, so I'm going to move this down so you can see it a little bit, this area better, or I can get my big head out of the way as well. So I'm going to, whatever one is loaded up now is the one I'm using. And I'm going to start making some marks to put together this person's features. But what I'm doing while I'm doing this is that I'm thinking about the planes of the face. So if you take, I'll do this with here. If you do this with look at shapes like this as you're looking at the face, and think about how the way that, and you can do this by looking at your own face in the mirror, and for age is irrelevant for this, by the way. If anything, the older we get, the more interesting a lot of the shapes in our faces become. But think about how these different planes that are in your face work together. And so when you're coming at it with trying to figure out how this face lights up, a lot of that'll come together in understanding those planes. So when you try to think about how do I draw this face in such a way as to make it look like it has some dimension to it or some realism to it, understanding those planes is really going to help you with that. So here's our big giant guy. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going through, I'll do the same thing with the back as well. I don't know if this is any benefit, but there you go. So it's kind of like drawing where all your muscles are as you're going along, right? There's interesting things you can find out about yourself when you're doing these sort of Myers-Briggs tests and the like. It's, I mean, some of them will give you, on this emotional spectrum, you are classified as a wizard. I'm like, what's the matter with you? Wizard. So I'm just moving down and going through the rest of this form. Now, these areas here that are all in shadow, they're all part of our big dude. And so they all count too. But It's a different value. So if we're going to paint this person in before, let me get my head out of the way so I don't have to keep, shifting this around. So if we're painting this person in, it gives us an understanding of all these different areas of color that we can apply. So if you want to go in with work from dark to light, work from light to dark, work with whatever's comfortable, put down a base value, and then dark and light on top of that. It's all about what works for you specifically. I think what I'll do is that I'm going to come in. Now I've gone to brown, which might seem counterintuitive for this approach, but I'm just going in and I'm picking some of these darker areas. I'm just right off the hop going to go in and start punching in some of those. And then you can start to see how what we're informed of with these planes, right? There we go. So I'm not losing all of the line art yet. I will, I think. But see what we can have stick around as we go. This brown really moves along that area anyways. And I'm just doing a light dusting over this entire area. Did I make it all the way down to the... No, not quite. There we go. Okay, so back to the top, inside the ear. Back of the head. And now I have to decide where's the light source from. Clearly I started putting it on that part of the face, so let's follow that for the rest of this composition. And we'll have some light peeking through as well. Okay, so now that darker flesh color comes in. And so it's a pink, but because of the red underlying value and the brown in here, we're getting different colors out of it. Yeah. So here's a magic question. Is anybody looking up Myers-Briggs test or taking a Myers-Briggs test since I mentioned it? Just curious. Because I'll do that while I'm doing something else. I'll just try that out. Yeah. What? I'm crazy. Susanna says, a wonderful page. Thanks, Susanna. Is this the darkest one I got? It is, isn't it? Yeah. It's all right. We'll sort it out. The reason that I'm putting that there where it seems counterintuitive to the light is because this lighter flesh value will be up on the shoulders. So I'll just jump over that just to make a little more sense of things for people. Is that making a little more sense now? Hopefully. Let's just, I did one way back in the day. Would probably change as I'm retired. No wonder my human body's so flat. I never considered all those muscles. Well, that's, the big exploration I often encourage people to do is uh, stand in front of your mirror and and appreciate and enjoy the way that light hits the areas of our face that are raised, and light hits the areas of our face that are further back. And what that can often do for you is to help to further that understanding of, that there are so many surfaces in our bodies and in our faces particularly, for us to have a better understanding of that. Now I'm going to come in with a kind of a counterintuitive value for some, but this is green. Now this isn't all going to stay green all the time, but what I'm doing with the green here is just cooling out a little bit in some of the areas. It's a kind of an interesting way to transition to flesh tones. I find anyways, but because there's more than just pink in a Caucasian, well, any flesh tone. There's more than just one specific value. There's warms, there's cools, colors that you might not necessarily consider off the hop, but especially in something that's got a red base, you're going to have complementary values. Actually, I'm going to switch to that deeper, slightly deeper green for back here. I don't want that light green back there. And then we'll decide where we're going to push back. All right, it's coming along. Yeah, I think we changed a lot. I'm pretty sure that whatever I might have done so many years ago has changed. I mean, that's what age and experience and knowing ourselves better over time does for us, right? So if your personality is constantly in flux, somebody saying, "Oh, I knew so and so many years ago, and they're like this," is discrediting the fact that that person's had an entire journey in their life since, right? Not to say that maybe they haven't changed. I don't know, but so now we're starting to get a little more. I can zoom in even more if that's easier, but I'll just have to keep switching it down as we move down on the Or I'll just move it down as we go to that area. We'll just stick up to the one space right now. Just do this face. So here's our person's face coming in. So we had a rough bare bones with the pencil, and then we're making up all of the rest of it as we go here and adding. When you're drawing, you're laying out your preparatory sketch for something. Don't expect that everything's perfectly applied, right? It's one of those, it's going to make more sense as you go along. So the reason I kicked my big noggin back into the image is that, is that better? Okay, so I've got this big old nose, and so there's, let's see which way works better. There we go. So as you can see, some of the pointing in the wrong side. I'm doing everything backwards. So you can see how there's this value shift that goes on. Take a look at the face and then see there's this light source that's coming from this direction. Okay. And so you can see when my hand gets in the way and it puts the shadow down. So I'm looking for the little raised surfaces to have more value over here. And that is sort of going to inform me about the choices I make for the colors that I apply down. Now, it also, I need to take account for the fact that the areas that aren't in that direct light are still going to reflect some light from, surfaces that are around that, bounce off the person as well. So now is where we start applying these shadowed areas. Thinking about these, that's a person's head. These other reflections. So I'm going to come in. Oh, my palette is way off. There we go. It's about as good as I'm going to get there, folks. I'll get my head out of the way in a minute. You know what I can do? I'll do this. Copy and paste. So now I've got a layer that's just my palette, so I can move it wherever I need it to be. So we'll put it over on this side. Happy days. There we go. Now we get that out of the road. Move it up again. There we are. Okay, so there's my palette back. There, now you can see it. Okay, we're cooking with the gasoline now, folks. Oh my goodness. So I'm coming in with this gray, and actually do not draw. I put a magazine or book pics on my pages to help them fit in. Well, I need to blend, shade, and show light, which I learned here. It's a fabulous page. Oh, thank you. Here's a fun thing to try, okay? Take your magazine pages, all right? And if you've got any plastic in the house, saran wrap will do. Lay it over top of your magazine pages that you put in your scrapbook or whatever where you collect those things. If you don't collect them in a unified volume or something like that, then maybe try that. But take your saran wrap, lay it over, tape it down, take a Sharpie, and start tracing. And you'll start finding the key lines and the key shapes and things. And whether or not you're, specifically drawing all of the image itself, but you're learning what the construction of the figures are. You're learning the construction of the subject matter that you're wanting to put into your pictures. And if it's not working out, new piece of saran wrap. And then you can try another experiment where you do your base drawing on one sheet of saran wrap, and then you lay another sheet of saran wrap over that and figure out where your shadows are with a different color Sharpie, a different colored marker. And so this expectation for everybody to be able to draw everything, maybe not necessarily so. We have dispelled some of the illusions about great historical artists in the last so many years, and realizing that many of them used specific tools that expedited their process. And they would have, pinhole cameras, or they would have a setup of refracting mirrors in their studio space, a singular light source in a ceiling, a bunch of people on the opposite side of the room behind a curtain, and the refraction of a mirror that's above that curtain from the composition that's down below, and how it is picked up in this mirror, and reflects down onto this surface where there's another mirror. And then they've got some paper laid over top of that, and they're tracing the composition that they have on the other side of the room. And, that's a tool that worked. Another tool that worked was a little two mirror system on a stick. And so and then you'd have your drawing area down below. You project the light, and the light projects the thing, and they would trace that out as well. So there's a number of artists throughout history that have used tools that we're only understanding now. That they're not all they're fantastic painters, maybe not fantastic illustrators or drawers, as it were. And this expectation that somebody has to have utility and the ability to work in X amount of ways and to have some modicum of mastery in X amount of things, it's not fair. We're all of us different, and some people are going to use different methods and approaches that, make them shine. That's their moment. That's their form of creative expression. Jelly plating. So many people do incredible things with jelly plating. The best I can get out of jelly plating is a modified surface for me to draw on top of, because I am not proficient at all at jelly plating. And yet I really appreciate it. So this is just gray that I'm putting in here to just give a little more. Is it all smooth and blended like, you see in large classical images? No. But I'm not worried about that right now. So now when I come out this 48% brush and go over all these areas where I've been putting these other colors in, now they all start working as a team. But there's so many other colors that we know are inside there. See, there's that red still peeking through. I like that red. Red is my friend. But we're finding our guy in here. I still haven't really hit in here with a white yet. This is the lightest value that I've put in so far. But this approach to it is helping me figure out colors and shapes and things along the way. So this is our Gulliver character here, is surrounded by little Lilliputians that we're all going to get them. Get them! Okay, so let's hit some white spots in there. And everything is still on the same 48% opacity there, if you're interested for the digital. So hopefully other people are able to register this face as having some dimension to it. It's only a party if other people can join. What time are we at? 12. An hour? Yeah, like an hour. So we've been going so far. We're doing all right. So whatever different methods that you're working with, you're going to approach them in different ways. You know, I went ahead and made my boxes and upcoming themes. Birthday, graduation, Mother's Day. Said I wouldn't create or to sell. I had those designs. Caving to the store's need. Hey, you got to be realistic. That creative journey's got to, you got to pay for it somehow. If that's catering a little bit, so what? It doesn't mean that you're not going to have all kinds of exciting and fun exploration for yourself in executing those projects. I'm not a solo as an artist, as spoken by somebody who has lots of money. That's the way I see it. I always encourage people to allow themselves to sing with their own voice, but you gotta do what you gotta do in order to forge your bacon. So I'm gonna make a jump again and come in with this light blue. Which might seem a little counterintuitive, but there you go. So the colors on the back of the head is the expectation is that they're bouncing off of something else. So we've already used some light blue in here. Maybe that was the green, I'm not sure. Anyways. So they're rare. We're moving down from up here. We're going to move down a little bit lower. Before I do that, I'm going to do a little bit of playing in here with this dark brown. Cut in some deep shadows in here. Give him some eyelashes. Yeah, I like the idea of working on a bunch of little projects and prepping them before you get to it. And I'm a little too impulsive to do it, but I'm impulsive. That's a good way to describe it. I'm going to a conference soon, and so we're figuring out rooms for the attendees for this conference, and I need my own room. Now, I'm fortunate that the majority of the people that are going to this conference are are ladies, and so that we're but we're breaking off of we've got a couple of apartments that are being rented for the conference, and so I can have a room there with the one other guy that's going on this trip with the group, or I can let him sleep because he's not going to do that in a room with me, because I still sleep as little as I do. So I had to come to that crushing realization that I don't sleep like the other humans. Always been this way. I always slept very little at night. So now we're defining some of the shapes of the arms here. And I started pushing back all these values that we did earlier. So they're still in there. It's just they're fairly tamped down and muted. And just making some creative choices along this way here that there'll be some reflection of the skin tone in here. And then I think what I'll do is also put some more blue peeking back into there. Oh, we got that covered. Okay, good. There's that piece of the arm. Suzanne says, I'm not commenting because I'm at work. Well, I appreciate you coming and hanging out, Susanna. So I've gone back up and I've picked that blue. And we'll chuck that in there. And then we'll take that deeper blue and just go over it. But it's still got that light blue inside of it, right? Right. And then so here's where we're finding the areas that are lit up from that same light source that are over here on this side of the body. And these are all around the corner from that, right? And then we'll put some of those flesh tone values back in. And make more sense of it. So I'll pull back up here in a second. So there you can see how it's under the arm now. And we'll lighten that up again. And then we'll come in with another red, or another flesh tone. Try not to say just flesh tone. That implies everybody's Caucasian, but when I say this one is flesh tone, it's because this is a value that's in everybody's faces, doesn't matter what ethnicity people are. This is one of those unifying colors that you can see in different people's skin. So now I'm pulling back in some of these values that we had here. Making a little sense of the muscles under the arm, the hips. There's that. There he is. Looking for that deeper brown. I got a thing I got to go do tonight. Well, this afternoon. And so I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to stream this afternoon. It's just why I came on so early from the time that I normally try to stream. I appreciate everybody popping in. This is great. Having fun. So we're going to pull our shoulder together here. All these values in the shoulder, tie those in. And then we'll pick a slightly darker. And then we'll pull back and see where we are once we've got this cat done. See where the composition is at. Yeah. Now it's looking like an arm instead of just a bunch of random splotches. Push that value back a little bit. Hopefully that makes sense. So yeah, I'm feeling a little bit liberated from working on these a lot of these large traditional pieces this last week. You know, to be able to just work digitally, and it's not much different from the other that I was doing because it's just I don't have to get out all the materials. Which can really catch up your time, you know. Setting up a working space, things like that, right? Is it looking like my arm? Got the old lady arms. Well, you know, it's for our character, we're trying to make it look like their arms. Doesn't look like my arms either. So there we go. We've got their mid area in there. So now I'm just going to come in with these various browns. little bit to here. Because again, this is the background stuff. The foreground characters is where ideally the viewer's focus is going to be. But I think it's still important to make sure that background sells itself. What is the idea today? Gulliver's Travels. You know, I just take a liberty. But dinosaur robot in there and so on and so forth. I'm taking a little bit of liberty with Gulliver's Travels. I take a lot of liberties, don't I, when it comes to these. But that's kind of the whole idea of the fun is that suggest an idea and we'll see what this old charnel box up here does with it. Because even I can't, quite entirely understand where I'm going with things. Okay, so here's our guy. And if it helps us to trim that outside of the box area. There we go. So I'll pull back the image and let's see where we got to. Okay, so here's where the top part of our composition is now. I haven't painted this dude in. I'm in the top area there, but we'll definitely do that. But basically that leaves the entire, hold on, I'll put another layer up. Everything basically, oops, I'm on the wrong, what am I doing? Let's get a color we haven't used. So everything, and I'm on a different layer, so I'm not going to mess up my picture, but basically everything above this line, I'll go all the way up, is good to go. You can't see that at all, can you? I can't even see it. There you go. Everything above that area is good to go. We're just going to color this guy up in the top of this what is it called? Promontory, I think it is, and see how we get him to stick out. So I'll go to our painting layer, and we'll put some colors into him. I'll make it larger, I'm sorry. So he's got this blue outfit going here, blue and brown. We're keeping him within this color field of what we're using and everything else, right? Now I've got that yellow that I haven't used very much of. So we'll poke a little bit of that in here too. And then there's the we got some colors on this side too. There we are. This is the charcoal color. So we'll just put that in there. And then we'll put a little hint at, and I'm still using the same size brush for everything. So we're just making it up as we go. I could reduce my brush down, but, you know, again, I'm not too worked up about it. So yeah, we're doing our little version of Gulliver's Travels. Boom, 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 boom. It's gonna. So we're sticking with our same palette. So the yellow's there. We're just toning it out a little bit, and giving some folds to our character up here. And then we'll pull out and see what he looks like. What were we? 14.5, I think it was. Okay, so there's the top part of our page now. And yeah, I'm feeling good with where we've got the composition. I'm just gonna fit a couple little more hits in on this guy, get little, just to give a little more shape. Did I not? I didn't grab it. Okay, there we go. Susanna says, Chris, I gotta go. We'll catch up later. Thanks for stopping in, Susanna. I appreciate you taking some time here and coming and hanging out. So there's our guy. And I'm just gonna tighten up that shape of the hand a little bit here. And around the head. There we are. So there's our character at the top of the building, waving off to the group down below. So here's where we're at so far for today's page. Yeah, there we go. So what we've done is, well, this is just extra swatches. And then this is our guiding line. So we've done everything on one layer. Now our pencil lines are on a lower layer. So here we are without any pencil guidelines. And when we add, so now that we put those back underneath, you can get a little more clear definition on some of the things. But for the most part, we've covered up all of our lines. And, you know, so be it. But, yeah, it's just fiddling about. And so the next thing, now that we've got this background area laid in on this top part of the page, you know, from up above this line's pretty much there. So we're gonna work our way down and start putting some of these guys in here. But I think I'll come back to do that because I need to go and check my blood sugar and have a bite to eat. So yeah, I hope this was interesting to folks, and I appreciate everybody coming and hanging out. I will be back at 2 o'clock, and you know, we'll continue this on, or 1:30. I'll be back around 1:30, and we'll continue on with this. And yeah, hopefully you guys come back and hang out and see where our version of Gulliver's Travels goes. Okay, that's it for me for the time being. Thanks everybody for coming and hanging out. I hope some of this digital painting stuff is of interest to you, and you picked up on, you know, some ways to approach it, and to use limited palette and so on and so forth, and how you know, it can inform you in your approach to it. So whether it's digital or regular painting, limit your palette, and it lets you really find your way to the images, and you can layer those colors over top of each other to get more complexity. So, all right. Thanks very much, everybody. I'll be back at 1:30 today. Bye for now.